our Chancellor, sir, our respected founder, sir. I, Dr. Anjani Kumar Singh, welcome you all in today's leadership forum on family business, the transition challenge. Friends, when we talk about the family business, two things are very come in mind, family and business. But it is well said, family run through emotions while business run through profession. It was quoted in an article of Business Today. Yesterday it was the business as a family. Today it is the family as a business. Tomorrow it will be the business of the family to ensure that there is a future for both the business and the family. Friends, when we talk about the globally, when we talk about in global business scenario, there are well-known name who, whatever we know, majorly they belong from family business. Globally known family business like Walmart from United States, Volkswagen from Germany, Toyota from Japan, Samsung from South Korea, Tata Sons, and many more name belongs from the family business. But the challenge when we talk about the family businesses, more than 70% of globally family business do not have a succession planning. So I think today topic of discussion would be a learning for us. Today we have eminent speakers, Dr. Meeta Dixit, Mr. Atul Saxena, Mr. Rakesh Verma, Mr. Kunal Singhal. Today the session is moderated by our beloved Vice Chancellor, Madam Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla, Professor of Entrepreneurship Leadership, and she is the Vice Chancellor of Amity University. Friends, I cannot brief her profile in too short time. If I will start briefing her profile, I believe it will take minimum 30 to 40 minutes. But I can say Dr. Shukla is a passionate entrepreneur, practicing entrepreneurship in the corporate world, leader and institution builders. She is one of the strong pillar of Amity success journey. We have another moderator today, Professor Dr. Manoj Joshi, Director, VUCA Center of Amity University, Lucknow. Professor Joshi have acclaimed researcher. He have written number of research papers. So I thank you all. Now I request to the moderator, Vice Chancellor, Madam Professor Balvinder Shukla, ma'am, to take over the mic. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anjani. A very good afternoon to one and all, especially a very esteemed panelist of the day, all my colleagues, the fellow Vice Chancellor, two Vice Chancellors, the Deans, Heads of Institution, faculty member, and all the students, the participants from corporate and alumni. I extend a very warm welcome to everybody. Today's theme, the family business, the transition challenge, is very apt in today's scenario. On one side, where the globalization started long time back, and the industry 4.0 is there, and the COVID-19 pandemic, the way it has impacted all the businesses, the world over, how the family businesses are coping one side, and how the family businesses are also preparing for the transition from one owner to the next owner to the children and between the siblings. As Anjani was saying that most of the big corporates which we speak today, they were at some time started as the family startup or family venture, which after generation have grown. And if they've gone to today the multinational corporates, it has been because of the three things: the strong value system, secondly the proper transition planning, and third the bigger global vision for the corporates. So that this proves that every family business can be transformed into to a big global corporates, provided a couple of things are kept in mind, and while making the smooth transition from one generation to another generation. But most of the businesses, when we look at the family businesses, one of the things, the proper succession planning is missing in many of the organizations, that what role the children or the family members will take from the patriarch, and what time frame that they will be taking the role, and how they will be finally straining the organization. And second very important aspect comes the family governance and the corporate governance. How these two things are being managed and and put in place, that's very important. So therefore, that is another aspect which need to be looked at. And the third aspect, when it comes to the how the family business have kept the vision for the business. If the vision is to remain the local, or the to regional, or the national, or the global. So purely depends upon the vision of the organization, and accordingly to translating that vision into reality, what kind of the strategies have been in place, what kind of resources are in place, and how aggressively those are being pursued by the family members. So these are the couple of things, and we are very proud and very fortunate to have today with us very eminent speakers who have the very vast experience in either research of family businesses or running the family businesses. And it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. And the first panelist, Dr. Meeta Dixit, who is the co-founder and director of Equation Advisor Private Limited, which is a consulting firm out of Mumbai. Dr. Dixit is a PhD in family business from BITS Pilani. She has also served as a professor at SP Jain, professor of family business and entrepreneurship. She has long-standing experience in family business consulting for over 25 years. So I extend a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Dixit. It is a pleasure to have you with us on today's very important session. Our second panelist is Mr. Saxena, who is the founder, director, and CEO of um, Pro Diesel Venture Limited, which he started this venture way back in 2001, and Mr. Saxena is considered to be the most experienced person in Indian biofuel arena, with extensive as well as expansive practical knowledge in this highly specialized field of biofuel. He has served on many technical committees, panels, boards, and has been the keynote speakers and invited faculty at various national and international forums and conferences. I extend a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Sakrina, for today's webinar. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Rakesh Verma ji, who is the Managing Director and co-founder of Map My India, which he has started in 1995, and after having the nearly over 12 years very successful professional career in the USA, and Mr. Verma is a transformation leader with a deep business skills for over 4 decades of pioneering technology and entrepreneurial experience. He fosters innovation and has steered the company successfully for the last 25 years, contributing to India's progress, fulfilling his passion to transform India in a way that maps the location technology can serve the India needs and help build a smarter and better future for all. Map India Vision has earned the reputation for its technological excellence and innovation under leadership of Mr. Verma. The products and solutions include pioneering navigation, building India's first digital mapping portal, solving India's last mile delivery challenges, starting India's first nationwide digital address system, encouraging use of digital maps and location technology to enhance the results of businesses and the consumer in digital India. So we extend a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Verma, in today's panel discussion. It's also my pleasure to introduce Mr. Kunal Singh, Managing Director, the ERP Technologies Private Limited. Mr. Singhal belongs to a family of chartered accountants, and following his enterprising family legacy, he completed his CA at a very young age. Since then, he has been actively involved as a director in his 40-year-old family business of chartered accountants, commonly known as S. Singhal and Company. Besides this, he is also the director of another parallel family business which is into real estate, known as Krish Group, and even the partner in prominent hotel Fortuna Orange. Being a technopreneur, he led the foundation of Easy ERP in 2007, which is a leading software company. He is actively involved in supporting startups in India. He has been invited to numerous forums and acknowledged with several awards. It's our pleasure to welcome you at this panel discussion. So very warm welcome, Mr. Singhal. Now I will share the flow of the program, what we will have after the introduction. There will be the opening questions, which my co-moderator, Dr. Joshi, will be starting. And first will be the common question to all the panelists, where each panelist will speak for 2 minutes. Thereafter, there will be a specific question to each panelist related to the area or the sector. And followed by, we will have the general question again, and then the questions will take from the audience, and finally we will conclude. With this, I extend a very warm welcome, and I request Dr. Joshi to take over from here.
Thank you, Professor Shukla. Namaskar. Welcome to all in this interactive session on family business transition challenge. Now, we have a very common question, interesting dialogue that needs to be taken up on these guidelines, which is put forward for you, and we'll giving you about 2 or 3 minutes to speak on the subject. So, what is the role of a family business in an economy? That is number one. A. What are the challenges witnessed by the family-owned businesses, and what are your views on the business and the family? So, Dr. Mishit, over to you for about 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Sir Joshi. You have asked a researcher a very apt question about what is family business and the economic aspect. But very briefly, I would say that, as I think most of our students and participants would be knowing, that family businesses are considered as the backbone of all the democratic or free economies in the world. So not just India, but all across the world, the countries which are democratic countries, they have family businesses in the largest numbers, and they contribute considerably to the GDP. They are family businesses or SMEs contribute almost 27% to the GDP and 40% to the exports, and of course employment. In terms of 8 to 10 crore employees are there. So these are the numbers of numbers which we get it from SMEs and family businesses. As far as the economy is concerned, I'm sure my other panelists will also agree that a large part of India, or when we talk about nowadays, when we have started believing and started working towards Atmanirbhar India, it is the family businesses which are going to make this dream come true. So my take on families in business and economy.
Now, what do you think about the general challenges that are being faced by family businesses?
The challenges, I would say, yes, there are 3 R challenges, I call them. 3 R's are, number one, the families have, and I've been interacting with a lot of our clients and other families, and first is the resources. Families have realized the extent of resources or the real resources that they have, or they have not yet built. Realization is happening that we do have a lot of money, but now suddenly we realize that we don't have solid resources to grow or sustain. Second challenge is of risk. What is our risk averseness, or what is our risk taking ability, is what families have now realized in this last 5 months, 4 months. And I think that clarity is coming up that yes, we are able to take risks in future, or we will not be able to take risks. And third important aspect of the challenge, I would say, relationships. many families have spent, all of us have spent a lot of time at home, and we are still at home largely. So the relationships in amongst family members, amongst generations, senior and younger, it's also, I think it's getting more clarified. I get some sense from people when I talk to families that that's becoming more positive when you're spending time together. So then you're starting to understand each other, which you had not really bothered to when the things were moving very fast. So three challenges: resources, risk, and relationships are there for families in business.
And a very short comment.
Yes.
The family business transition as a consultant, how do you see that?
Transition is happening, and I think after this pandemic, we are in couple of years we are going to see a good number of families moving to younger generation. The thing is that the realization has happened about the eventuality of our life, and a lot of senior members have now started realizing that these sudden turns of the events can just put us, throw us out of the business and also out of our life. So life expectancy is becoming little question where people are becoming more aware and conscious about it. So younger generation has got a big role to play now, and they really have to pick up their boots and start working and getting into leadership role, which I think we are going to see it in next 3 to 5 years.
These are the comments from the consultant side. Let's see what Mr. Atul Saxena has to say from the family business side, because he's a person from family business. So, sir, what is the role of family business in an economy as you see the challenges by the family businesses, and of course the transition cycles that you are likely to see or must be seeing in your family business? Over to you, Mr. Saxena.
Okay, so at the outset, I would like to thank Amity for inviting me and organizing this, taking a very interesting and important subject. I'm a family business owner, a first generation entrepreneur, and I'm also an advisor to Ministry of MSME, which is mostly run by family businesses. So when I started this business, let us look at the challenges and opportunities. So in a new business, in a family business, all the resources, as the Neeta just mentioned, are very scarce, and everything has to be done by the business owner himself. So at this moment, what happens that everything, and it is a big opportunity, what I perceive, that learning by doing is happening in family businesses. Most of in my sector, which is biofuel, most of the large corporates have failed simply because they don't go out of their AC offices into the field. As a family business owner, the owner has to perform all the duties. In fact, from peon to managing director, all the duties are being performed by a family business owner. And that gives an opportunity to learn things by doing. But then, taking it forward, the problem comes when you have to scale up the family businesses, because you need a lot of talent. It means hiring people which are very expensive. And the transition part is then taking place, and most of the time it does not take the transition. Small and medium businesses remain small and medium, and they may be taken over by their kids, and they are taken over by their kids. So many a times, probably I have seen family businesses in 4 generations which have not transitioned from family to a corporate business. So here in the later session, what we need to find out the solution, that how this transition can happen, how the best of the talents can be nurtured or acquired by family businesses, and they become a corporate from a small, medium business.
That's very interesting. Atulji has brought a very interesting statement about not being complacent. You have to start from washing, cleaning, to becoming the managing director, taking all the roles together. That's a good advice, reverse advice to consultant Dr. Dixit, which should be taking forward to. Let's see what Mr. Rakesh Verma, who is the founding director of MapMy India, has to say on, sir. Let's have your seasoned advice on this subject as to the current role of family business, the challenges that the family business is going, and the second and third generation, and what are the transition, your comments on transition? Over to you, Mr. Verma. Thank you, sir. Your voice is mute.
Voice is mute.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Your voice is mute, sir. I think the voice is mute. Rakesh, your voice is mute. Can we? Okay. By the time Mr. Verma, can we get back to Mr. Kunal Singhal? Let's let the technical glitches solved out. How do you see, as a young, you have been associated with a lot of businesses and belong to the family of chartered accountants and into technology business. So how do you see the role of a family and business in a family business, and of course, particularly in an economy, and the challenges that you are witnessing in a family business altogether? Over to you, Mr. Singhal.
Thank you, Joshi, Dr. Joshi, actually. So, sir, being a second generation myself and belonging from a I've seen factories all my life, so I've seen a lot of companies transitioning successfully and I've seen unsuccessfully to the second generation. Dr. Chancellors are working some parts, so family business close to about 75% of the economy. From a ready one, we transition to the next generation to like Tata. They're all family business. The biggest challenge that I feel like family businesses come across is communication. The next generation talking to the previous generation, the next generation understanding the previous generation, or even ideating at times. I've seen people where the children are not able to give up the right ideas to the, or let's say in the right way, the ideas to their parents, or the parents would disregard their ideas without even listening to them. That disconnect is the biggest challenge which prevents a family business from becoming a corporate. And as Apulji mentioned, from being a founder who's doing everything to becoming a CEO who's getting a team below him to get things done. That is the biggest. That is the second biggest transition for any family business. And how do they do it? Because I've seen. I take my own example. Joined my dad's CFO. I tried to make a lot of transition. 2 years later, I got fed up and I asked him to either change the way you work or I changed me. I got changed, the way the work did not get changed. So things happen like that, yeah. So that's where family business, I feel, communicating and transitioning from the first generation to second generation is a big challenge.
The basic, what I could read between the lines, there are two types of transition, which all of us must agree. One is a business transition and it is a family transition. I think you spoke about both the aspects of from moving from a radiwala to a corporate business, and also the business, from family, from first generation to second generation and third generation. So both have their own intertwiningness and their complications. And I think these to be elaborated, I think which will be taking up in our subject discussion. If Mr. Rakesh Verma, are you there, sir? You're mute, sir. Can we have your opinion, sir, on the subject now?
Am I still on mute?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. So would you like me to repeat the question, or can go ahead?
Okay. As I started saying before that, 20 years back or 25 years back, when I started this entrepreneurship or a startup, coming back from the US, I never knew that I'm getting into a family business because it was a first generation entrepreneur. I always believed that what I'm working is working as a professional. It's only the last 5 years I started realizing that it is becoming a family business. In what sense? I think we have to separate out the family versus the corporate, the work world. It's only when the children, the next generation also started getting into the business, I realized, oh, the word family business now is hitting me. The difference being, till before that time, I always took it that the professionals working in the company, it has to run in a corporate way, and I'm just leading it. So now with this change that I'm noticing, and I have noticed and I had to act on it, I definitely separated out the family part and the business part of it. Now, on the business side, succession planning, these are the words that hit you. So what is this succession planning? In our case, I've used that as an example, is who is most capable to take the company forward and carry on with the mantras or whatever you call it, lead the company in the manner you had visualized. When you start looking at that, the conflict happens in the family then, because there are members of the family. How do you differentiate between them if there are more than one? Who is more capable? These questions start hitting you, and that starts impacting the other side of your life, which is the family life. So the point here is the question to be asked to the students who want to get into the family business, if they are not going to be the first generation entrepreneur, they must ask themselves, should the next generation enter into a family business as a second generation or the third generation? They must ask this question. To answer this question, they must know what kind of personality they are. Are they individualistic with a very strong ego, or they can work together? Because if they're joining a family business which their father or mother have started, then somehow they have to go and gel with them till the time they are still also in the driver's seat. So these are the fundamental questions they must ask before they come to a family business. The next part also comes up is, what are the issues they might face as a second generation? So even the first generation, like me, I have to also think about what issues I will face when you have this transition. What are the protections I need to take, not just personal, but from a corporate world, how the corporate will shape out in the future. So the two things, I will say the fundamental things, the ownership and management have to be separated out totally. The ownership may have more twist towards the family, because normally it is expected that the wealth that you have created will go down. Normally, it's not true in the US, it's not true in the Western world, but in India it is still expected that the wealth has to go to the children in a manner the parents think it's right. But the management of the thing must be separated out if you want, as a creator of the enterprise, to succeed in the future. This is how I would like to conclude for the time being.
That's wonderful takeaway in a very nutshell, with the kind of experience that you brought in. That family and business are part of the same system actually, but family needs to be separated on the emotions which Dr. Anjani brought about, and business is about economics. You have to see that the business lasts, the legacy takes over. And you brought in a very interesting dialogue, which people like Dr. Dixit, who are consultants, waiting to give consultancy on, is that when indifferences and differences become conflicts. So if they say that differences must exist in a system, whether it's a family business or a non-family business, in a professional world also, but it not lead to conflicts which actually destroy the complete value system of the organization. And
Yes.
what Vice Chancellor has also been saying, we must have healthy conflicts. Okay, wonderful. Now let's get back to the individual rounds with Dr. Dixit coming in the first day. I think as a consultant with cheer on her face, this is a straight query from my heart. Ownership issues are critical to a family business. What Mr. Rakesh Verma, we're building it from there. So what is your opinion about the critical issues regarding the ownership? And as a consultant, you would have advised several families businesses. If you can share some incidences in the next 5 minutes. Thank you very much. You can mute your mic, ma'am. Unmute your mic.
Yeah. Now, am I audible? Okay. Yeah. So, Professor Joshi, ownership, as you mentioned, is we all know that family business is a system where family and management of that business happen. But without ownership, a family business is not considered as a family business, because ultimately it is the ownership which keeps the family or the business and both together, or keeps them or makes them separate or break up. My take on ownership is also has changed over last couple of years, and I see, and we all see, there are many entrepreneurs or say business owners who are very successful. They have looked at, now they've started looking at their business ownership as they are the stewards. They are looking after the business as if it is not their own ownership, but it is that the job or say the responsibility they've been given by the society, by their organization, by their family to look after the business. So so I'm saying it that the ownership is dimensions are changing. Another aspect is happening in ownership, and I think especially the small business owners would look at it. There are three types of I would say the style of doing the business, or the purpose of doing the business. We find it in families. Now, there are three types, I would say, categories or the styles which put. Number one is that the families believe in creation of wealth for themselves, lifestyle for themselves. And a lot of small businesses, they always have this thought that yes, let us make more money, become cash rich in our business, buy properties, and become safe in terms of when it comes to money matters or wealth matters. So these are wealth focused businesses or families. Second type of families are very innovative. They are entrepreneurial families where they keep on and on adding new businesses, and they keep on doing. I was talking to in one webinar recently, I was talking to Pan Parag family, younger generation, their joint managing director. And when he said that we are not only in tobacco Pan Parag business, but we are into real estate, we are into hospitality, we are into several businesses, about 5-6 different industries. That means that is the ownership of the business is not just one business that we own, but it is we are we are developing our newer and newer businesses to give a voice to our entrepreneurship. So these are innovative businesses, I call them. And the third part of businesses are the legacy businesses, where they want to. I think Kunal is from third generation or fourth generation. Are you from first? You are from the second generation. So yeah, so the moment you enter into your third generation will come in the business, you will automatically will realize that, oh, it's a legacy that we have built in. No, grandfather's time and our time, and later on. So with all the businesses that happen. So wealth, innovation, and legacy, the sense of leaving behind something bigger and better, that sense. So all three put together, I think ownership dimensions are running around these three purposes of the families or the values of the families, because it's very important as ownership governance part. When we are talking about it, all boils down or goes back to the fundamental aspect of what are my family's values. Do we consider our family manage the business, run the business, and do good for our employees also forever? Or do we want to let the business run by experts and not get inside or poke our nose, if I put it in a very colloquial manner, and let the businesses run by professionals and move to newer heights? Take example of Dabur, take example of Pidilite, or businesses which we are seeing all around, where there are no several businesses where there are no owners who are putting that put in the office, or taking any decisions in running the business. So ownership dimension with governance, with values of the family, and the purpose that with the families in the business are changing. And I think it's now youngsters are realizing, and they are, I mean, youngsters are quite exposed to the global environment. So there is more emphasis on doing businesses in an ethical manner, doing businesses with do's and don'ts, with regulations, taking them into account rather than just doing the Jugaad way. The Jugaad way is really slowly painting.
Okay,
Going down.
Dr. Dikshit, thank you very much. It says, no, if people don't fall ill, you will have no doctors and physicians in the market. So if there are no conflicts, no ownership, you don't have consultants
No,
like
so
in
we
the
won't
market.
have. Yes.
have them as well. So let the conflicts happen, let the ownership issues happen, let transition, sibling, rivalry happen, and we'll have people like you and people like us to research upon, and we'll stay in a entire ecosystem. Okay, thank you very much. Over to Mr. Saxena once again. I think Dr. Meeta Dixit brought about a very interesting dialogue and a subject on value creation also. So would maybe have your opinion on the transition from a small business to a corporate business. That's number one. And what is your opinion about value creation in a?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a most important question. In fact, we have, as we know, that we have only 5,000 limited listed companies in India, in an environment where we have got almost 5 crore businesses, but very small number of listed companies. It means the transition. How a small business, as mentioned by my colleague panelist, that यहाँ पे रिक्शा वाला भी entrepreneur है, वो भी एक family business चलाता है, पान वाला भी चलाता है और डाबर भी चलाता है जो transition कर गया. So here the question comes with a new generation. There are lot many students attending this session, I am sure, and their parents must be running this business. Even my son is also, both are students of Amity University. And now the transition should happen. Then what happens when we are looking at a large business? Then we need experts, as just rightly mentioned by you. We need experts to run the business. It cannot be run by a single owner. All the departments in a business, there are n number of departments. We have finance, we have marketing, we have technology, we have HR, we have got sales, we have got so many departments. And how it has to be transitioned. Now, this is the question. It comes that from a person-owned business to a system-owned business. So that system needs to be created. And for creating that system, resources are needed. So now we know there are new opportunities. The government is coming out with MSME platforms for listing the company. There are NSE emerge, which can list small businesses onto a new platform. So here the government is giving a lot of push. But then the question remains that from a lean organization, how it can become a big organization. And that transition, in my view, what my suggestion is that we need to go through the team. We need to find out the experts of their field. What we are doing, what we do, I personally find out people who are expert of their business. In my field, I know people, scientists. I know one of my mentor, a scientist who was working with government for his entire life. He was working with CSIR lab, and when he retired, and I hired him as a partner. Similarly, there is another gentleman who was working for an oil marketing company, R&D head. Now he has retired. So what I found out, that building that kind of a network is easy, that we can remain a lean organization. At the same time, we can create a pool of talent in a family business, and slowly we take into that transition aspect of it. So value creation is the key, in fact. Unfortunately, in India, we are only working for personal wealth creation, as rightly mentioned by Dr. Meeta, that we are looking at how much money I can put in my FD, how much of a loan we are taking, and the loan is being used for making our own wealth. I have seen it because I had been working as a consultant also, doing turnkey projects. So what I had seen that people do the overbilling. ₹1 का प्रोजेक्ट को ₹2 में किया, बैंक से लोन लिया, उसके बाद वो NPA में आ गए और वो बिजनेस सारा खत्म हो गया. Nobody has thought of कि अगर उसी पैसे को reinvest करके, like Reliance did, started with a very small business, started building value. So that building value is something which is to be taught. In fact, as a Amity, as a university, what my suggestion would be that such kind of a program Recently, we are working on a program with Delhi Technology University where we say that we will set up in an incubation center. We need to create the entrepreneurs. We need to provide all the talent, that pool of talent. Let's say this Amity is having a big pool of talent. With the university has all kind of experts. There are financial wizards, there are technical wizards, there are HR wizards, all kind of people are there. And if this pool is offered to startups or family businesses, a startup is also a family business and the old family businesses. And if they start getting this kind of a bank, so let's say a talent bank which has been created, and it is done on a value creation model. In my business model, what I offer a stake in the company to all the people who are coming. I am not offering, so it is keeping the resources onto a limited level. We don't have to spend money. If I have to hire a best of a CA, like my colleague panelist, we might have to incur huge cost. But at the same time, if I say, sir, please come be my partner in the wealth. Once we together create a wealth, and corporates call it ESOP, employees stock option. So similarly, if we build this pool of talent together, let's say we take out from this Amity University, let there be a talent bank, and this bank be offered to family businesses or startups for creating value.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. I think Mr. Saxena has brought up in a very interesting area, which is the core strength area of Professor Shukla. We speak about resources and capabilities, maximization and optimization of resources and capabilities. So you pick up the best talents instead of promoting anybody, just because he's a member of the family in the business. That's not fair. In professionalizing business, you pick up the talents and put them up and to ladder into value creation. Wonderful. Now let's move to Mr. Rakesh Verma, who happens to be one of the senior most in the seasoned in the Map My India. Sir, this is a very specific question to your business, rising to this occasion as a most important business. How did you balance profession as well as family once you came back to India? And have you encountered conflicts during your journey, and how did you respond to them? Over to you, Mr. Bob.
Thank you. Well, I think then I need to give a little background, which will help, which will bring the talk in the context of what you're asking.
Sir.
It has been a journey of 25 years. The journey that started on a customer-funded business model, whereby we were building the intellectual property of the digital map, which took us 10 long years, and we had to be sustainable. And we did not want to get, taken over by the VCs. Keeping that in mind, the first phase, while we did that, the next we had to now we thought about how to create value for the business, having created the intellectual property. And that's where we brought in the venture capitalists to help us in creating the value. So successfully by 2015, I feel happy in saying that MapMyIndia was valued at over $255 million by then Flipkart, now Walmart. And at that valuation, that's the value created in a family business in the areas where our competition is people like companies like Google and TomTom and all that. Now, having done that, what was the next thing that we had to think about? And if you look at the Maslow's need for hierarchy, for the Maslow's needs, it very clearly talks about the 5 different levels. Having created this kind of value and also realized that it's becoming a family business, and the transition must be done in a manner that the value of the company keeps growing, I faced 2 challenges. One challenge was what the succession should be, who can carry forward the innovation in the organization, and rightfully, I got my son, who is a Stanford graduate and a LBS, London Business School MBA. I could see in him the light that he can take the organization forward. However, the challenge was there is a set of team members who have brought the company to that level. What would be their future? Because one of the challenges that happens and the conflict that happens is the senior team members do feel at times a bit uncomfortable about some very young guy coming in and taking charge of the company, and that's what was happening. So the way I can share my personal experience, that it has been last 2 years where I'm closely working with him being appointed as CEO and continuing to be the managing director of the company, so that the conflict doesn't happen between the employees and the new CEO, and between the son and the father. So it's working well, and that's why I feel that although my realization about transition came very much late in my life, but at the same time, I have been successfully able to create a scenario where probably help from Meeta Dixit and all that we didn't seek. I wish I had thought about it before, and if I'd known her before, I would have consulted her to make, because I believe in everything can be done better. Now, your other thing, what kind of conflicts during my journey I experienced? The conflict, I think, in a way I just shared, the conflicts are primarily when there are more than one person in the family succession, then who is the right person? So in my case, there were two, to tell you, my son and my son-in-law. To take the business forward, I believe that this is the one who can handle it better. As an ownership, I have separated it out. I said ownership is quite different, and ownership is a family wealth going downward in the manner that it should be. So since I don't differentiate between a boy and a girl, it was very simple way for me to differentiate. So that's what I will say. Anything more you want to hear?
Wonderful, Mr. Verma. I think you have broadened the horizons, and I'm sure Anjali and Grima, my academic mates, and Dr. Dixit, who has also been in academics, you remember that Dr. Shukla has always been saying in our campus that in family businesses, allow your siblings or your kids to go and get educated into higher ladders, because it actually differentiates their mindsets and their core capabilities, as what Atulji also mentioned about, making the art of decision making in a complex world that we are living in a better clarity. And as you see, all the speakers are primarily speaking that professionalization is one major issue, which is now being the central part of discussion in a family business, whether it's a closely held family businesses, or whether it's a business which is a family business but run and operated by somebody else, or an operating CEO. And he brought about a very interesting dialogue as to differentiating the role between the next and second and third generations, clearly, candidly differentiating that what is the CEO's level, what is the MD board's level rules and regulation, so that the conflicts are reduced and mitigated. Thank you very much, sir. Now, Kunalji, I over to your opinion on these two interesting queries that we have, especially being mentioned to you. As an entrepreneur, I think, as you mentioned, as an entrepreneur, how do you see the business one? And of course, in your business journey, you would have encountered issues that became deterrent to the business. So how do you take over to it? Over to you, Mr. Singhal.
The businesses of the future, I see a different direction altogether. Two very big factors. One, the way the whole startup ecosystem has evolved over the last 4-5 years. Again, sharing from my personal experience, it took me and my brother literally 2-3 years to convince my dad कि पापा startup भी कुछ होता है. There are people जो उसमें 100 crore रुपए लगा देते हैं, and then you can do wonders about it. Whereas my dad, coming from a CA background, coming from an industry background, would always believe it till the time there are no physical assets, there's nothing to do. So that transition from a pure physical asset business, the way industries and manufacturing sector used to be, to a service and an ideation level business model where you have an idea and someone else is putting the money. This is transitioning, and this is a major change that is happening globally. Second, I see a pandemic also as a major role player here, because a lot of traditional businesses where digitization was disregarded by the previous generation, now they had to accept it. So whatever the younger generation would have been telling, let's do digital marketing, let's have a website, let's do this, let's go to e-commerce, and that was being disregarded, that my business is going on. Why should I even think about all this? Those fundamentals took a challenge due to the pandemic, and they had to forcefully take a second look at digitization. So the businesses of future will be more digital, will be more technology adopted, because people have realized anything can go wrong any day. Something like Corona was never expected, which would have a global impact. So diversification is needed. You cannot have one run-of-the-mill product, one run-of-the-mill customer, and bank your entire life on that. Since I work closely with the industry as I provide ERP solutions also to the manufacturers, I can see a lot of traditional manufacturing areas like Rivalries, like Faridabad, like Ludhiana, who are running a factory just as a job work for one Hero Honda or for one Maruti or for one Hero Cycles for their entire 20 years, doing just that one thing. This cannot sustain in the future. So the models have to be diversified, models have to be more adaptable to the environment. The second part on me encountering issues and becoming deterrent to the business was, yes, the way I took a call. So I finished my CA in 2006. I joined my dad's CA firm, although I've been working with him since my school days. But then 2006, I tried to transition the entire working overnight. Though my dad supported as much as possible, but that overnight transition was not supported by my clients or by my other partners. So eventually I had to move out. Later I realized that, okay, then overnight transition was not the right approach. And as Rakesh sir has also given his input right now with his son, it has to be a gradual process, because no matter what I study in Stanford or what I have done from my experiences, books and practical will always be different. You cannot plan the ship of the business sitting in a boardroom unless and until you don't know what's going down in the actual business down the line. So that transition has to be gradual. And the mistake that I did with my father, that mistake is committed by a lot of people. A young generation comes in with too many degrees or too much education. They're like, they want to change everything overnight. That doesn't really work. So that gradual change is a very major requirement to get adapted, to get acquainted with the older staff, the way Mr. Verma also mentioned, so that they also accept you wholeheartedly, rather than a pressure that you come here by right, not being a deserving candidate. They should see you as a deserving candidate, not just a rightful heir of a throne which has been given to you. So yeah, that's my view.
That's very interesting. I think all the participants, the listeners, let us appreciate that with humility and humbleness says, and the dialogue comes up, failure is not an option in any life. Failure is not at all a catastrophe, but failure to learn from failure certainly is in any kind of business. That's a part of my research that has come out. And you have rightly brought up that we must accept with humility and humbleness the challenge, and the people around us who have helped us in growing the business and giving them opportunities and chances to go forward too. Wonderful. Now let's come to the general questions to the panelists here. This COVID-19 pandemic has impacted most family businesses as well. This is a statement or a proposition that all of us know here. So how do they see the business families responding to this kind of VUCA event or some kind of black swan event which has hit? So Dr. Dixit, as a consultant, how do you see COVID pandemic impacting it?
Yes. So this is, as you rightly said, this is a black swan event. We had never ever thought in our lifetime that such a thing could happen. And that is really put us in a very complex and ambiguous, like you are, the VUCA world. we are in. But this is the greatest example of VUCA, which has completely shaken up the world or the businesses across and the lives across the globe. I see that there are two changes which have happened or are happening now during this pandemic time in family businesses. Number one, next generation. Next generation is either got into the limelight of taking more responsibilities and moving ahead or proving themselves. And in some cases, next generation has realized that no, I'm not going to be part of the family business. Now, I'll give you an example, a real example which happened recently. And a younger generation guy told me that, ma'am, I'm so happy that this pandemic has happened, irrespective of all the problems that we are facing, because I am now going every day to my factory, and my father has not stepped in for last 4 months. And I give this example, to so many people, and said that my father always had apprehension about me, and he always used to find some fault in what I'm doing. And in 4 months, his confidence in me has gone to the roof. I never had thought that my father would start trusting me so much. And father also feels that, oh, he's become so responsible. Earlier, he used to look at his watch and say, no, I will not go and I will go. And now every day, in spite of all these challenges, he's going to the factory and he's looking after the things. So the relationship and the transition which you are talking about now, in this case, transition is going to be much simple and, or say, I would say smoother than what they would have had otherwise. In another case, the young generation said that we have some retail shops we had to close, and we realized that, oh God, this is really bad, because we did not have enough cash to survive for 4 months or 6 months or so and do it. And I don't want to live my life with all these challenges if they come up in future. So I've decided that I'll continue, pursue my studies, and I'll get out of the business. So now see two sides of the coin. This pandemic is giving, but it's definitely making families in business more aware about the challenges that they are going to face in future, because this is not going to go away. If not COVID-19, then there will be COVID-20 or something else. Now we have to get used to this. Yes. So something or the other will keep on happening. And preparedness is the only way. Preparedness for uncertainties and complexities is the only way.
Yeah. Okay, Atulji, I would think taking the dialogue further from Dr. Meeta Dixit, because you are part of the family, you are part of the business. So this question has basically two components. If you see it from a different direction, the same question, that is COVID-19 impact on the business and the family decision. How do you see so?
Yeah, see, basically, it has taught a new way of doing business.
Right.
What I see COVID-19 is it has really transformed the way we can do business in future. Because in the past, there were so many challenges. Now this was a time also. It is a big opportunity, what I perceive, that it has taught us how to do business in future. This 4 months or 5 months, and it will stay. It is here to stay. So we say a new way of life. And in this, what happens, you get more time to discuss with your family, because when family is together, then you can fight more with your family, you can discuss more with them, and you can try to figure out that how the business can be done in future. And as a business, you have to find the opportunities and threats. In my field, which is fuel, it is a recession-free business. Even during this last 4 months, we had been working, right? In fact, we invented some new things. We invented a mobile corona clinic. So during all this period, I see as a person, I see everywhere an opportunity, because there are always two sides of a coin. We can see it as a threat or as an opportunity. So that is what I see, that it is a new way of doing business, how families can together do it and make transition to a new business.
So you see, I mean, I think it's a very interesting statement that you have made, and we have been hearing from people like you that it's a sign of opportunity and a new way of doing business. And what Dr. Dixit says, and I also say, that today it's COVID-19, tomorrow we can even see worse. So probably let us see that these are weak signals or strong signals, and it gives an opportunity for people like you, like-mindedness, people like us, we come forward together and see that the business and economics are rolling together. Now, Mr. Rakesh, since you being the senior most, I think the same, you being in a business from the sector which we, automotive sector, where MapMyIndia has been very prominently successful. How do you see this same query of COVID-19 impact the business as well as some decisions in the family? Over to you, sir.
This COVID thing, the day lockdown happened in Delhi, we were taken aback. We didn't know even how to operate because we build intellectual property. It's like a factory running. You can't take out things from the factory. But, being an innovative company for the last 20 years, we said something interesting we can do in weeks. And what we did was immediately brought out the COVID-19 dashboard, showing where the... can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we did was we brought out COVID-19 dashboard, whereby where the testing centers are, where the migrants are moving and things like that. And that became so popular that after lockdown was over, the companies were also, we got inquiries from so many companies and we are implementing things like where the employees live, or do they live in a containment zone? The delivery has to happen like that. Even so, what I'm trying to say, this COVID-19, the impact was a digital transformation happening in the country. And that speed has picked up a lot. You can see it now all across the board. And in the whole process of digital transformation and our bringing out COVID-19, one of the big things that happened to MapMyIndia, and I really feel that the fourth level of Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, the esteem needs, has been fulfilled when, for me, after we were declared the winner in the Atmanirbhar Bharat app challenge after the Chinese apps were banned in India. So MapMyIndia was awarded 10 days back the #1 app in that category. So as far as the impact generally in the industry, I will say those who are innovative, those who believe in digital transformation, their future has become brighter. Being in the automotive space, we never felt that our business will go down, because in the automotive space, everybody, the use of the private vehicles have increased, and the more and more the need for this kind of a navigation, which we have brought out now with the COVID part built into it, is helping us a lot. Thank you. Now, your question is also, what is your advice to second generation in the family business? My advice, I think Kunal also touched upon that, and he is a second generation. I'm in the first generation. The transition has to happen. Nobody can stop it. This is God's given. So the simple thing is, if the transition is done in a very nice way, in a gradual manner, should be thought over maybe 5-10 years prior to the full transition happens. I guess that's my advice to the next generation, that do not be in a hurry. After all, you will live longer than your parents. So what is the hurry that you want to have everything right today? Enjoy the fruits, because you have gotten a platform to take the business forward, learn, and keep moving on in your life. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well said. I think that sets the tone for Kunalji from one perspective as blessings in disguise from Mr. Rakeshji. And as well, you belong to the technology sector. He mentioned something that this is one sector where opportunity has been. And our earlier speaker, Atulji, mentioned is COVID-19 is an impact which has had technology sector, telecom sector, which have become the backbone of the business. So this question, firing back to you, is that how do you see COVID-19 impact on the family businesses from your perspective, and how do you see the business families responding to this kind of situation, specifically in your terrain? Over to you.
So if I take my own personal example, and I think Mr. Rakesh also touched the slight impact of it. So my father looks after the real estate business actively. I look after my IT business actively. Now, real estate was definitely going through troubles earlier also, and then COVID was definitely a hit. So everywhere there were news about jobs, there were news about salary cuts. Real estate sector was also doing that. Whereas in my company, in IT, we were growing. So zero salary cuts. We were at 110 people on 31st of March. We are at 155 people today. We've been hiring like anything. And my dad is looking after me. Wo kya raha hai? So that is how the perceptions are changing, and the way the previous generation is seeing that's changing. So COVID will bring impacts in ways which we cannot even imagine right now, and how they will work now. My dad is almost 65. We are after that you're not allowed to go outside. It's a government rule. Now, he doesn't want to sit in the home, so that conflict also keeps happening. But then eventually, as Ms. Dikshit also gave an example, it has given time for my younger brother to step up in the business, and my dad to realize that things can work good, even without he getting involved on a daily basis. That has helped in the transition. Now, when it comes to suggestion, I would say rather than giving a suggestion to the second generation, which Mr. Rakesh has already very apt that yes, you have time, there is no need to hurry. The mistake I did was a hurry. Had I taken it thoughtfully, though I don't regret that decision, I set up another company and that has grown considerably well. But the suggestion that I would like to give is more towards the previous generation, that there is a major cultural shift required in at least a country like India, where we are culturally born and brought up the fundamental कि अगर मैं will की बात कर लूं, sorry to use Hindi here, तो the father will think कि मेरे को मारने के बारे में अभी से सोचने शुरू कर दिया था. So that is where consultants like Ms. Dikshit are needed, because a will is not to kill your father, but to plan your succession nicely. And that planning need not happen 5 years before the younger generation is supposed to step in. That planning needs to happen when your business is at a good level. I can quote good amount of examples where I have seen real life scenarios of companies where the owner was running a 100 crore company or a 200 crore company. The owner died in a car accident or some accident. The next day, the entire family did not even know where the assets of the company are. And those 100 crore companies wounded up to zero within 3 months. They had to go bankrupt just because that planning was not there. Succession may happen when the younger generation is ready to take that succession, but that planning has to happen way before, and that planning is also an answer to avoiding rivalry between siblings. अगर वो पहले से created है, why should there be a fight after, sorry to say, the father has expired? If that planning could have happened way before that, when the person was alive, those rivalries can be avoided. I won't say it can come down to zero, but they can be avoided to a lot of extent. And we really need to seek help of consultants like Dr. Dikshit, that yes, there is a third party needed so that all these things can be done amicably. So yeah, that's my suggestion to everyone here. Although I see that it's mostly younger people in the audience, so I don't know how much the suggestion will apply to them, but still, yeah.
Mr. Singhal, if we have witnessed that if I was doing a data analytics, you used the word dad in your statement a couple of times, and I am sure he would be hearing you in both contexts. So the conflicts and the rivalry will come when you go back home and say, hey son, what did you do? Aaj beta ne mera bahut baar naam liya as dad and father. Well, that's interesting part of it. Now, Dr. Dikshit, I think as a consultant, and we have been talking in research from a research perspective, I think you need to educate us on how do you handle sibling rivalries at the time of a crisis. So if you have got some examples, for example, like it happened with Reliance, it happened with what many companies altogether. So how do you see this perspective of conflict theory of handling secondary rivalry?
So I think it is there is some saving in our Indian families. We use this saying several times. Blood is thicker than water, and another thing is that at the time of calamities, it's the family that stays together. So family that prays together, stays together. Now, these are all sayings or anecdotes or phrases that we use it, but the reality is that sibling rivalry. Genesis of sibling rivalry is not when siblings grow up and then they are ready to join the business or they enter the business. It starts from a very young age when they are just growing up like kids. How the family values have been ingrained in them, whether competition is the spirit which is the parents have unknowingly, directly, indirectly have inculcated in them, or it is something that we are all together and we are all a family and we have got the bonding, if that is inculcated. So this is how, so it depends, the rivalry, the way it takes shape or it doesn't exist. I work with a family and I always give that example. And I think that she also, some years ago, I'd given you example of a SK Sevantilal Kantilal family. Fourth generation is in the business, and 7 brothers of third generation, 7 brothers of fourth generation. Now the 5th generation is coming up in the business, and the whole family of 115, 20 members, they have never ever parted. Nobody has exited the business of the family. Nobody has got ever any conflict where you really have to take help of somebody and say, oh, please help us. So there is family bonding, and family values are bigger and stronger, and anything more than money at any time. Money will not matter, but the family values will matter, is the message which is given. And it is not only this family. We have seen several families which are now into their 3rd, 4th, or 5th generation, and they're all together. So sibling rivalry, I think, is a way, in a way, if it is siblings are groomed and given right values, then that becomes a force, that becomes a strength. But the moment you bring in, or say parents, I think they are the ones who educate children or bring them up. So, and your environment also, your teachers, your surrounding also. And when there is a competition amongst ourselves, amongst the family, then that is very dangerous. I would say it's a poison. So families usually, you also know, Professor Joshi, interacting with so many families, that when there are 2 sons of ready to join the business, and a father would say the easy way is कि इसको business को break up कर दो, 2 कर दो, और एक को ये business दे दो, दूसरे को अलग business दे दो, so that there is no fight. Both of them can have their own small kingdoms and be happy there. That is how that is a way many families look at it. And in some cases, the youngsters have come to me and say that, ma'am, we are 5 cousins, uncles and बेटे, हम लोग 5 cousins हैं और हर एक के अलग अलग 3 अलग businesses हैं. Now we want to consolidate because all 5 of us, we get along very well. We have got a hierarchical relationship. Eldest one is our boss and look up to him. So he'll be the leader and we want to, but our father and uncles are not agreeing to that.
Right.
So these are the cases which are happening, but I think it's very important. And what we do, and I'm sure you also will agree that all of us as consultants, we do is to understand what is the biometrics of the family, the DNA of the family. The DNA of the family is based on a lot of physical comforts and money-oriented, wealth-oriented biochemistry, or say DNA. Then there is very quickly the family has to decide and draw lines between the business and the family, what family will do, what business will do, what will be the ownership. So we call them family constitution or family policies, and do that. If the family DNA is more of being together and closely knit together, irrespective of business does good or not, so then you have to look at another aspect of policies and see that in being close, you don't lose out on opportunities of growth. So balancing is important. That vision of.
Thank you very much. I think let's have some wisdom from picking up the subject like DNA, the bonding and the values which are inherent or required to be, to be a part of the bar system that the Japanese people say, the value system of the Japanese family business. So how do you see this bonding and values as an integral part of long-term sustainable family business with long terms of value creation?
The basis for all this all these are how good the communication is within the family. The communication, the more you talk with each other, the more you express your views, the more you are able to, through that, the more you are able to understand each other. I think generally, I won't say all, but generally, I think most of the people in the family businesses want to prosper. They don't want to destroy. But the issue that comes up is at times you call it ego, and at times you call it the hunger for control. This is one of the things I would like to even advise the youngs as the next generation. Not that the first generation don't make mistake or the second generation doesn't make mistake. That's not the point. The point is the controlling of what? As the child grows into an adult and the adult becomes gets into 50s and all that, everybody has a responsibility towards something. And if you have a responsibility towards something like to raise your child, you need to have a control over that situation. In the family business, what happens is if the next generation is coming in and wants to have a control over the entire business, that's one thing. Wants to have control over some functions, as Kunal was talking about, or Atul was talking about, there's so many different areas of operation, that's another thing. So the planning must be done in advance, as Kunal talked about, that if you do it, forget about when the parents will go away, do it from the beginning, who is good at what. Through that, the communication also starts happening and the expectations finally are set in. And once the expectations are set in and the leader of a business is a natural one, but in India, we always believe the older you are the leader. Now, I think there has to be a change in the thinking of the first generation or the current generation also. I will say for myself, to this transition, because the transition is the key for this talk. Through this transition in the last 1 year, I am also, if I had 100% control over decision making, I find that already I have slipped it down to 50%, 40%. Because if I do that, and then gradually the decision making starts happening with the next level, the communication starts improving. So it's very easy to say communicate, but what do you communicate? Your actions are very critical of communication also. But I have struggled. I have gone through a lot of pain. It hasn't been easy. I think I'm trying to make it simple, but the last 2-3 years have been difficult. But today I feel that it's going in the right track, on the right track. And COVID-19 has helped because as a family, we are all operating from home office, where we are communicating much more and understanding much more rather than just trying to spend time with other folks in the company.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before I put into the question and answer question sessions from people who are attendees, let me take up one last with Atulji. It's too early to ask this question to you because you're too young and the kids that you will have and you have would be taking your business or may not be in your business. So how do you see the piece of advice you would give to them if they are coming to your family business? Quick. You're mute, sir. Kindly unmute you, Atulji. Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. So basically, in what I see that any business, whether it is a family business or corporate business, a right strategy matters. When I always quote this example that let's look at the airlines. Indigo is a company which is making profits and others are making losses, and it's a level playing field. So what is the difference? There are two businesses. One business is making profit and another is making loss. So the difference is the strategy. And in other words, we can say a right blueprint. If we want to build a good building, we need to have a very nice blueprint. And most of the businesses, whether it is a family business or a large corporate, they run through whims and fancies. They are not running through any right strategy. So my advice is that before we get on to making a building, there should be a very nice blueprint. Every point should be taken care of, a right strategy, a right research and right strategy. Then it can really create success for everybody, whether it is a part of the family. And family, I perceive that the entire company is a family, whether it is related or unrelated. In my business, all my employees, I consider them as a part of my family. Somebody is in trouble, we have to take care of them. So it is a relationship, whether it is a bonding, whether it is genetically family, but as a business, we have to run the entire business like a family.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I think for having put up the candid reviews with time running short, and I think almost on time. If you permit me to push some questions that have come on the board for the panelists to have their independent opinions. So one of the questions that has come from Dr. Nirva says that what kind of business models would emerge and in the current situation where family businesses are facing problems in the COVID-19 pandemic. So Rakesh, would you like to take up this? The small family businesses have been attacked. So how do you see their business model, the emerging new business models?
I know I'll use a buzzword called digital transformation. For small businesses, also digital transformation apply. Mm-hmm. Whether they have to do, whether they can develop it on their own or not, but then in today's world, with the same youngsters who are trying to provide a lot of digital transformation solutions, which I think the small business must learn to adopt them, and they have to make a change in this post-COVID-19 arena.
Okay. This question, into the consultant's mouth. In case it gets divided in this kind of situation, Aarti Sabawal wants to know as to how does the business should be distributed amongst the family members. So is there any specific science behind it or mathematics behind it?
Yeah, there are certain models and there are structures, very, very clear structures from taxation point of view, from legal point of view, and also from family's relationship point of view, they come up. So if the family has decided to split their wealth or their businesses, then there are certain legal aspects that you have to look into, that what is your asset of the business, what is the market valuation, and how the shareholders are have decided in past to share their breakup. Big mistake, or say I wouldn't say mistake, but one area which families, they don't give importance to is when they come together, family members come together and prepare their business MOU or business document, that the shareholding document, and Kunal would know, he's a chartered accountant. So they don't clarify or don't specify clearly what is going to be the exit route, if at all anybody wants to get out. And then later, as the family grows and the wealth grows, or when the wealth is in trouble or business is in trouble, and the family decides that now we want to divide, and then there is a huge commotion and conflict, and very, very severe bad conflict takes place. But when there is a thought also is happening in the mind of some family members, they must, I should say it not just because I'm a consultant, but I must say that they must take an advice either from family business consultant or a chartered accountant who understands the wealth aspect of the business and relationship aspect of the business before splitting, so that you can see that the family does not have to split in their relationships. The business can and the wealth can be split or divided, but the family relations can still be kept intact or healthy. If already it is decided, then please take help of chartered accountants and tax planners on how the division would take place.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now I'm firing a cruise missile. Let me see who answers this. Aradhya Agarwal says, how can a business deal with the difference in opinion in old and new generation? I think Kunal would be he's smiling. He brought that into the question. So please respond to this. How can a business deal with the difference in opinion in old and new gen? I think it's about a matter of thoughts and but not about value systems, but about thoughts and ideas. Over to you.
So I think the answer partly lies in what Mr. Rakesh already talked about, what he's done with his son. See, giving small opportunities to your younger generation, or for the younger generation also, taking small opportunities. If there are 20 things being done in the company, and my suggestion or my way of doing work improves one thing at a time, my previous generation will start accepting my opinion. If I try changing too many things, if I take 10 decisions, five out of them fail, then I have spoiled my own relationship and my own opinion quality. If I take 2-3 steps at a time, I show that, okay, sir, I took 5 steps, or I took 6 steps. One of them went wrong, but the remaining 5 went very well. Right. The acceptance will come, and then that is how you bridge that gap of how to transition to the opinion of the new generation. Because generation gap will remain. The way it remains in the normal family, it will always remain in business also. Not because of 2 people of 2 generations, because by the time the next generation comes in, the dynamics of the global economy have changed. The dynamics of the business have changed. If I take one example, the philosophy with which at least Indians are born and brought up is, I am the captain of my ship. My business is my ship. I am the captain of my ship. I'll go down with my business. I've seen people rising and falling all the way down with their business. Globally, if you take developed countries like US, business is just an investment. It's a business. I started, it became very big. I sold it to someone else. I made money out of it. The emotional attachment is very less. Still, that business is very progressive. There are very 2 different school of thoughts to it. And I feel that the younger generation is coming up with the second school of thought. I'm not supposed to go down with the business because business ki life ab choti ho gayi. You don't plan for a 50-year business strategy now. You plan, your business cycle changes in 5 years, 10 years now. So you create something, you make it valuable, you sell it to someone, and you move to the next idea that you have. That way you don't get bored also with one idea.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Atulji, would you like to give us your opinion upon a question which Mr. Yogesh puts up? For students who would like to join the family business, what would be your suggestions on that?
The students, they need to see their interest. We remember that movie 3 Idiots, that whatever they wish to do, they should go ahead and do it. So many times it may come across some of the business. Let's say somebody is running a halwai shop and the student does not want to go and join that business. So the first thing is that what kind of the ideas, what kind of thoughts and what kind of interest the students are having. If they are very much keen, they perceive the family business as a good opportunity, they can go and join it. If they perceive it as a good threat to their ideas, then they leave it and move to their own path.
Okay, wonderful. I think before so many questions around, but running out of time. So I will take a one minute short to everybody. What is one piece of advice in 1 minute would you as a specialist, as a consultant or a professional owner, family business owner in the first generation, second or third generation, would you give an advice to either the scholars, the professors in the current scenario? So Meeta first, 1 minute. Shoot.
I think now after this pandemic experience, I would suggest, I would recommend, and I would say to all the families who are here listening to this, younger generation, senior generation, sit together and draw out do's and don'ts about you in your family and your business. We simply call them as family constitution, or we give all big names, but it is simply that how our family will behave in difficult times, will behave in good times, how will we behave in the business, or what will we do in the business and what will we not do in the business. Please make a note of all the do's and don'ts and regulations, policies and values, whatever you want to call them, but be clear on paper, not just in discussions, but be clear on, put it on paper. What do we stand for? What do we want to do? And how do we want to do? This is the pandemic teaching us. Yes.
Thank you for the rapid. Kunal, what is your 1 minute stay for the audience?
So my advice would be to the younger generation that be prepared to experiment and give new ideas. At the same time, please be prepared to fail. It's not possible that you'll always succeed, and that failure should not undermine you individually in your own self, and in terms of in front of your parents also. You should be firm and confident, even facing your failure in front of your parents. Okay, I tried something, didn't work out, doesn't work, it doesn't make a difference. I'll try something else. You learn driving a car, you meet an accident, you don't stop driving. You try something else, you take a break. So please be ready to fail, but the only thing is please be prepared to come back from that failure and start something again. Business is always about experimenting with something new. There is no one idea which can flourish for everyone. It will always be different. Please be ready to experiment.
Wonderful. That's Mercedes. Okay. What is your stay 1 minute state on these students here?
Yeah, see, so my suggestion is that get out of digital world. Nowadays, the youngsters are all onto mobile, laptop. They will have to go on the ground level, see the ground realities, because it is a very rosy picture when we are sitting, and especially when they are graduated from very eminent institutes like Amity. They have got a bond with the silver spoon, so they need to go out on the field and experience, take a first-hand experience of how the real world is.
Rakesh, your wisdom and seasoned advice to the participants, along with the question which has come up, how to transform unorganized businesses to organized businesses, as Mr. Aditya Agarwal.
Well, I think before that, I will just make some other statement. Separate out the ownership and the management of the business. Even in the ownership, look at, I quote Premji from Wipro, who used to say very clearly that the ownership remains with me, meaning thereby Premji, but the management is management and let them operate the business. So in the family business also, that's a fact. It was his family business, or it is his family business in a way. The second part is unorganized sector. You know, in this unorganized sector, the digital transformation is the major thing that's happening. Because the unorganized sectors could not bring in their own digital systems to grow. So I have noticed one after the other that those who are becoming part of the digital transformation systems provided by, I don't mean these apps, you know, just for this fun or that fun. Apps should be used also for the rural areas. And what he talked about, ground reality, or go to the ground. Yes, you have to, I mean, one has to do things related to our rural brothers and sisters and find out what can be done there, and not just sit in Delhi, Mumbai and try to change India. So India is actually, we are Bharat and not India. And something I would strongly suggest to the youngsters to go and think about Bharat also.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think with this piece of advice by all literate eyes on the dais and people off the dais for having put up a very interesting dialogue on the subject, if I permit me to sum the session, actually, when we were designing this particular program along with Anjani ji, Garima and Dr. Shukla, and especially with the help of Ritu, who was kind enough to rope in some senior people like you, we spoke that the family, as I said, family is about economics, and family is about emotions, and business is all about economics. And they can't be separated, and they have to work together. So Dr. Anjali pushed this pitch on the very first starting point. And when Dr. Meeta Dixit started with the dialogue stating that this COVID-19 was a black swan event. And having said this, she brought about a very interesting statement that the family businesses are the backbone of any economy, whether it's from India perspective, Asia perspective, or global perspective, with SMEs trying to predominate about 27% of the free GDP in the economy. She brought in about a very interesting dialogue about 3 R's, which are basically resources, risk, and partnership, which are clearly associated with the family businesses. And ownership is just not ownership, as you said. It's about taking the responsibility of working in the business. Mr. Saxena, Atul Saxena from Grow Diesel, as I said, a first generation advisor running, operating a family business. Yeah, he says that everything is to be done by hand. You know, you just don't mean that you are an owner of a company, you don't have to do this or that. You have to do everything from the beginning to what, right from opening up the office, cleaning the office, and then running the operations from the top. And he got a very important dialogue, as I said. Team selection and expertise a very critical role in running and operating a. So it's just not like you have a son, you have a daughter, you bring them into business. You need to have a selection. I think Dr. Dixit will also agree with me. You need to have a resource and optimization criteria of saying what is really required for your business to exist. A very seasoned advice, which came back, as he said, Mr. Verma, having come back to India, after having realized that finally he ended up, it was his family business. The best part of this, he says that running a family and operating a family in one shell is a very important critical component. And professionalizing at some stage was required, and that's what he's mentioned, that his son went off to Stanford University and went to London. I have not met him, and I can't see his physical behavior, but I would understand that he would have not given his sons just because his son is his son. He would have given this responsibility of ownership of running the technology-driven company to an expert who happens to be his son, but with an expertise required to run a business in the 21st century. So he spoke very candidly on this aspect, and as he mentioned very candidly, that COVID-19 has brought up a very nice way of representing that you are running, you are having food together, you are talking. Communication is a very important part, and that's what is important, which actually is a barrier for building in conflict. So the moment you have parallel communication, conflicts are resolved. Kunal was too smiley, and he brought in dad into too much into discussion, and he's mentioned about I will need to say whether he has a conflict or non-conflict, but he brought in a very critical statement about from Ready-Wala to a corporate business. So how do you actually build a business from very small centric businesses, which is closely held, closely monitored, closely which you call as CHFF, Ananjaniji would agree with me, closely held, closely financed by family businesses to a corporate business. So he says that the biggest challenge is to form a generation passing on from generation to generation. It's not that the family legacy must continue. It must not die. It must, like what we hear in Bajaj, you hear in a lot of companies around the world, which are going up. And when he went into the startup mode, I think he is very right, candidly right, that when he would have gone to his father and said, "Oh, Dad, I want to start a startup," he said, "What do you mean by a startup? Remain in my family business." So this first generation entrepreneurs within a family business or a second generation entrepreneur in a family business is a critical component of discussion in today's world, because the economy has opened, the technology opened, the business partnerships have opened, and the younger generation are smart enough to take up the newer business as well. Now with this, as I say, the sum up in the 1 or 2 minutes as well, is that the core discussion of the subject was around value systems. I think what Dr. Dixit was put up a hammer again and again, that it depends upon the DNA of the system. What is your DNA of the organization? If your DNA is good, your DNA, it's not good, bad, or ugly, but how the DNA is structured to take up your business. So, and finally, it's about matching the capabilities and resources within our organization to see when a business goes from one generation to the second generation in terms of a family, it goes from one market to a different market, from one product to a different market in terms of businesses. So that's what the essence of our today's discussion, which opens up multitude of questions about family business in transition, family in transition, family business, and business families into transitions. Thank you very much for a lively dialogue which all of us had, and I give it to Dr. Anjani and Garima to take over the session. Thank you very much to you.
Thank you, Professor Joshi. A wonderful discussion, almost 90 minutes regarding the family business and transition in the family business and family and business. I think it was a wonderful discussion. We have learned, as being a professor of a family business, a lot of learning we got through this discussion. So I feel privileged to say thanks to our eminent speakers. On behalf of Amity University, I must say thank from bottom of my heart to eminent speaker for sharing their valuable important views regarding the family business, from transition from X generation to Z generation. A number of concerns I cannot speak more about during this discussion, but yes, we have a lot of learning through those. So I must thank to all the speakers for sharing their views. I also thanks to IT team and audience view on various issues of family business. I cannot stop here without thanking moderator to Professor Manoj Joshi and to Professor Balwinder Shukla ma'am, our Vice Chancellor ma'am. It cannot be possible without the guidance of our mentor and Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Professor Balwinder Shukla ma'am, because this idea came in his mind only. So that's why we are today in this virtual platform. And we have a lot of learning to her brainchild. I also thanks Amity University to provide such wonderful platform. I have to say two line regarding the Atmanirbhar, very famous poet of India. They said two lines: "जो भरा नहीं भावों से, बहती जिसमें रसदार नहीं, वह हृदय नहीं पत्थर है, जिसमें स्वदेश का प्यार नहीं." So Atmanirbhar Bharat. So thank you from my sides. Thank you all for listening. Wonderful discussion. Thank you, Professor Garima. Thank you, Ritu, and all the teams of who was involved in such wonderful discussion, for shaping the designing the everything. I must thank to the Professor Dr. Neelam Saxena, Professor Dr. R. Sujata, and Dr. Sujata Pandey. Thank you all. Thank you, Professor Joshi sir, giving me such opportunity. Thank you.